Hey mamas, you're listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast, the only podcast teaching you how to balance your work, motherhood, and wellness. I am Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist and mama wellness consultant. Each week we dive into tips and strategies and much more so that you too can become a balanced working mama. Let's dive in. Hey mamas, we have a very special guest today. I'm so excited to talk with her about partnership, marriage, building trust within those foundations. We're going to talk about all that today. I'm going to have her introduce herself. Will you please let us know who you are, why you're here, a little bit of what we're talking about today?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Amber. I am a millennial Christian wife, 8 years, a toddler mom, a boss. I'm originally from the DMV area, but we recently relocated to Central Florida. I'm married to my college sweetheart, and together we actually own Forever Marriages, which is a brand to help couples, millennial couples specifically, build lifelong healthy marriages.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. I know you and I connected on Instagram. I don't even remember when. I have these connections with people from the internet, and but then I can't remember when they started. But I'm appreciative of you. I know we've had a few conversations in the DMs about just a bunch of stuff, and
Yep,
I hate that we did not get to connect before you left this area.
I
So
know.
if and when you are back, please let me know and maybe we can meet up, check in for a little bit. But either way, I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic today. And so I guess the very first question I want to ask you is why do you think it's so important for us to be talking about expressing your needs in partnerships or in marriage?
Yes, it's such a great question, and just so the audience knows, I will be answering questions and speaking from my experience as a marriage coach and someone who has had experience in marriage ministry for over five. Oh my goodness, it will be 5 years this year actually. So honestly, unmet needs and unmet expectations lead to more discontentment in marriage and in relationships in general. Like the dissatisfaction that we see in like studies and research, we cannot like neglect the fact that okay, is that dissatisfaction because of the fact that you didn't communicate what you desired, what you expect, your preferences, your boundaries, and things like that. So it's really important to be able to express what your needs are to your partner, to your spouse, because then you can actually hold them accountable. If you didn't communicate in the first place, then how can you expect them to meet that need?
Oh my gosh. Like already it's making me think of like you said the term unmet needs and expectations, and that's huge. Because I know how uncomfortable it can feel to be in a space, especially in a relationship or a partnership with someone, and feeling like your needs are not being met, or like you're not understood, or the expectations are just not aligned well. And nobody wants to feel like that. But I'm wondering, and I want us to talk about this a little bit more too. Why is it so hard for women and especially mothers to really fully express our needs to our partners?
Oh my goodness, there's so many reasons that can lead to this. But one of the main reasons I feel is that we see it modeled in society. We see it modeled in our own homes. So maybe your own mother did that, or your grandmother, or women figures in your life. So that's all you really know. And then we can't forget about the superwoman complex. We see that what from the beginning of slavery to now we see that, and honestly that leads to the fear of even letting go, like the fear of okay, if I express this need, are they really going to deliver? Can I even share this? What are they going to think of me? And this is your spouse, this is your partner who you're thinking of this about, but it's still very true and very common to have those types of feelings and emotions. And then because of that, you're like okay, I don't really know how to set boundaries because I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything. I feel like I have to do it all on my own. And then add motherhood to that. It's just an unspoken expectation that I see perpetuated in society, becoming a mom myself, I had to go through that same unlearning process of, okay, it's okay to ask for help. And I kid you not, it was only until I had my daughter 2.5 years ago where I was like, wow, the need for community is so much more important. And I know that's not about spousal and partnership and all that, but it just goes to show that when we become parents, when we become mothers, there's this greater need of letting go, this greater need of needing more people around you to help and to express your need to. You know what I mean? So I think it's just so many different issues. I feel like we can go on and on about it, but I feel like those are like the main four or five.
Mhm. And those were like, wow, super relatable, especially the one where you said it was modeled for us. We actually just had an episode with Dr. Cecily Moore, and she talked about Black Superwoman schema. And it was fascinating because she said a very similar thing in that, that type of being, that way of being, this superwoman, doing it all on your own, not wanting to let go, is something that originated during slavery. And so, because of that, it is not meant for our well being. Like, it's not good for us. It's not, does not have our well being or wellness in mind. And yet, we continue to operate in that manner because for so many of us, like you said, it's completely modeled for us. That's how we learned how to be women and mothers and wives and partners, spouses, and it's really hard to get out of that. Is that what you found as well?
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to get out of that it's because it's a mindset. It becomes a mindset, and I feel like it shapes your beliefs, and it shapes your behaviors. And the other thing I wanted to mention was is the fact that sometimes it's not unspoken, it's spoken by your spouse. Like, this is the expectation. And I know, like, within Forever Marriages, and the wives that I've spoken to and the wives in our community, some of their husbands have that expectation. Like, okay, this is because of gender roles and things like that. Okay, you're supposed to take care of the kids, you're supposed to do this, and you're supposed to do that. And they have already outlined what that looks like in their home. So for a wife to now say, like, oh, I need help or I need this, it becomes that much more challenging because their husbands have already laid out for them what their role is and what they're supposed to do as a wife and a mom.
I literally couldn't imagine. um, I just, oh my gosh, like even as you were saying that, I just felt this big weight on my shoulders and on my back, just like the feeling of like walking into a partnership with this expectation already set that just does not align with my needs. And it just felt so heavy. And honestly, it reminded me of a conversation I recently had with a mama in on Instagram DMs, and she's a new mom, and she was just kind of saying she's doing everything. And we kind of talked it through and realized she truly is doing everything, and she does have a husband. But she was just saying, I can't leave my baby alone with my husband because he just would freak out. I'm cooking everybody's dinner. I'm waking everybody up in the house, including the husband. It's a lot.
It's a
And
lot.
so, I think she's in the beginning stages of realizing that maybe the expectations are not aligned, but then also her needs are not being met. And she's really trying to figure out, how do I continue to manage while also wanting to bring in another baby?
Mm.
Um, and so, so I guess, so my next question, I want us to talk about, how does this idea of being more expressive when it comes to your needs lead to more trust within your partnerships? Because I can imagine that, a mama in that situation that you just described of, realizing that their husband or their spouse has these expectations that just don't align well. It can be really hard to say something about it. So I guess, what do we do about that? But then also, how does expressing your needs lead to more trust?
Yeah, honestly, what I've learned over time is that we want to be trusted just as much as our spouse wants to be trusted. And that's in every relationship. And so I feel that when you are vulnerable with your spouse and you communicate your needs to them, that shows them that you trust them. And through that trust building, your relationship gets stronger, your marriage gets stronger, because now you guys are doing this dance where it's like, okay, I'm expressing my need to you. I'm getting more comfortable. And I think it takes practice. It takes practice, even for that mama that's listening who's like, I am scared. Like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know if they'll accept what I have to say. They've already said what their expectations are for me. I just encourage you to start somewhere. And you may be surprised, but until you open your mouth, you will not know. And so I say communicate that and actually show your vulnerability. It could even be like, you know what? I really need a break today. Can you take the kids? Can you take the baby? Here is the plan for the day. This is what you need to do. But I really need some time to myself. That is expressing to your spouse that, okay, I need to focus on my mental wellness and my emotional wellness. And I value those things. And I pray that you value that as well. And you want the best for me. Because in order for me to show up as a good wife, as a good mother, I need that time. And so I'm entrusting you to be a good father, right? To be a good husband and to help in this area. And to me, that only shows that, okay, wow, she trusts me with this. I may make some mistakes along the way, but she's trusting me and she can release this to me. She can relinquish this to me. And that then becomes more of a habit because the more you do it, it's just like, okay, we're getting better at this and you're communicating. So even thinking about, okay, let's say the end of that day happens and some things didn't go the way that you liked, but now you're like, okay, let's look at that day. Let's look at what I didn't care for and let's look at maybe your experience with the kids and how things kind of went. And then you talk about that. You know what I mean? Because we can't expect perfection. So it's like, okay, now this is what I would like you to do different next time. And maybe your spouse is like, okay, this is what didn't work. I got really scared when they did this, or I didn't know how to handle this. And so you're now communicating healthy, right? You're having healthy communication. And I feel that that's what grows that intimacy, that closeness within the relationship.
That was super eye-opening. Like that was like I had sparks flying in my head, like, wait, what? Oh my gosh, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think for me personally, what I've noticed is what I do is when when I have a need and I'm afraid to express it, it's because I'm and okay, how do I say this? I think I'm keeping this need to myself because I'm trying to protect my husband, or like I'm
Mm,
trying to support him by not putting my needs on him, right? I'm like,
mm,
okay, let me handle this myself because I know he's tired too, or he's going through it too. So on the surface, I'm telling myself, well, I'm protecting him, I'm watching out for him, I'm caring for him by putting my needs aside, when really that doesn't do anything for anybody because it, doesn't allow for us to have that connection that you talked about that comes when you're able to be vulnerable. It doesn't allow for me to get the care that I need so that I can be a better wife and mom and in person. It doesn't allow him to feel that I am able to trust him with my vulnerability and with, the house and the kids and all the things. And so it's a lot more advantageous for all of us for me to be open about what I need, because we then can connect together as partners and husband and wife and really talk it through. And like you said, me being vulnerable and upfront about what I need allows him to feel that I trust him with
mhm.
my heart and with my emotions and with everything that goes on in our world. So that made
Yes.
so much sense.
I'm so
So
glad to hear that.
much sense. And so I guess for you personally, how has
Mhm,
all this stuff kind of evolved for you? Because I know that you said that you are a mom and a wife and you have little little kids. How has this evolved for you all?
yeah, so as I was saying earlier, like when I became a mom, and she's 2.5 now, and so this is our only child, Joseph and I, we actually waited 5 years, almost 5 years to start a family. and or expand our family. And so when we did that, I mean, this was right before the pandemic hit. And so I realized becoming a mom, it really changed my needs. My needs changed. My love language changed. Like a lot of different things changed. And I had to be vulnerable enough to communicate that to Joseph. And a part of me, I'm not going to lie, a part of me was like, oh, he'll get with it. He'll see the different changes and signs and stuff like that. But no, we have to remember like our husbands, our partners are not mind readers. So there is still so much value and I don't care how long you guys been together. It does not matter, right? We still have to be willing to say, you know what, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I need from you. And so I had to do that same exercise with myself. Joseph and I known each other for 12 years, have been together for 12 years. And so I still had to get to that place where I'm like, okay, yes, we've known each other for a long time, but it's not fair for me to just not communicate well. It's not fair for me to assume that he knows that, okay, I'm a mom now, because things just change when they say everything changes when you have a child, it really does. And I know you're a mother of multiples, so it's like it's even more different and it looks different. And so I think I had to communicate one that my love language changed. It went from acts of service to now quality time being number one. And I had to find a way to communicate to him in a healthy way and in a more objective way instead of like complaining like, oh, we never spent time together. It was like, no, Joseph, like I really would appreciate it if we um make quality time together more of a priority on a weekly basis. It's like you hear the difference, right? And that's what I feel like that's a whole nother conversation about how we communicate. But we're just talking about like being able to get to that point of expressing your need.
So real. It's so interesting. On our last, my husband and I last wedding anniversary, which I think was year 4. Girl, I'm losing track already. I think I think this year will be 5. But this last one, we went to brunch. We always do a staycation for the weekend. And
Okay.
so it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning. We went to brunch and we both took the love language quiz. And it was so cool because I was like, all right, you pull out your phone, I'll pull out mine, and let's take this quiz. And of course, he complained. He was like, oh, and I was like, look, just do it. And
Yes.
we did it, and we both got a lot of value out of it.
Okay.
We both were actually very surprised at each other's results because, like you said, I think our love languages have changed. Mine definitely changed. I think it used to be a lot higher in terms of physical touch,
Mm-hmm.
but like now that I have kids, I don't want to be touched. Like, leave me alone. Like, I want my space. And so that one went down and quality time went up for me as well. And so, I noticed that I'm always pushing for us to I just want to spend time with you. I want to spend time. Let's just turn off the TV, just me and you. But for him, he used to be a huge acts of service guy. He still is, but his physical touch went up. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I think that, I don't know, we could analyze this all day. So basically,
Yes.
I was gonna say, I think that's because again, we have 2 kids now. And I'm like, look, leave me alone. And he's like, hey, where you at? Um, so we really talked about like what that meant and like, us kind of making a plan for like, well, what does this mean for year 4 for us and moving forward? And so I love that you were able to communicate that to your husband, but then also I do think it's important, that communication piece. How we communicate about our needs matters sometimes more than, well, no, it doesn't matter more than the need, but how we communicate that need is really going to make or break whether our need gets met. And so it actually reminds me of the next question I wanted to ask you. What are some strategies that we should be using or thinking about in order to just get better at our ability to express our needs to our partners?
Yes, so one we did touch on slightly, and that's practice. Practice makes perfect in a sense. Being able to, first of all, make a list of what your needs are. Make a list, and a part of what I explore with motherhood, the journey to motherhood, the journey of motherhood, and wifehood is being in touch with how you feel, because when you have a child, or you have multiples, your mind is always racing. You are always thinking about everyone else, scheduling and this and what we have to do for the baby and all of that, right? So taking moment for yourself to really think about and work through, like, what I'm feeling and what I need, and actually being able to write a list so that you can come to your spouse. You can come to him and be like, these are the areas that I really need help with, or these are the areas that I would like to change, or whatever the case may be. And so I would say practice making the list, and then using conversation starters. Conversation starters have been such of a game changer with Joseph and I. And you can find them like online. Amazon has 101. Gary Chapman has 101 conversation starters for couples and things like that. That gets you into the practice of just communicating in general, and you can really stir up that not the strength, but stir up the courage, really, to start expressing yourself. Because I know, and you, Dr. M, I know you probably talk with your clients about the different levels of communication and things like that. So we want to get to level 5, like really being really vulnerable, expressing ourselves, our feelings and emotions. And so I feel like that will really help to muster up that courage and strength. And then also I would say, like, really prioritizing time away from the kids, so you can actually think clearly and get more in touch with each other, with how you're feeling, doing those check-ins. One thing that Joseph and I always tell our coaching clients or community is that those check-ins, those marriage check-ins on a weekly basis really works wonders, where you're asking questions like, okay, how can I better serve you this week? What is one thing on your plate that I can take from you, and do for you? What is one thing that you would like to improve? Like, those conversations, again, are going to help reveal those areas that you may be needing help in, that you didn't think about before. Because again, time is just moving all the time. And, you just need those slow moments where it's like, oh, okay, I can really think.
Amen. Yes, like for real. All of that was so, so, so good. It actually is funny. I'm thinking about this weekend, and by the time you all listen to this weekend would have passed. But the weekend I'm referring to, my husband and I are supposed to go out of town for a wedding. And I was really going back and forth about the idea of like, do I want to go? Because sometimes for me, just the steps that's needed to prepare for us to be away from the kids feels overwhelming. And so part of me is like, well, I'm just not going to go because I just don't even want to think about like having to pack all the things, pack my things, like prepare foods. Like I just don't even want to do it. And mind you, my husband helps with these things, but still just thinking about it is if it gives me anxiety and overwhelms me. But, I told myself, I need to ask for the help that I need with regard to planning those things, and then get through the other side of it so that I can have a weekend with my husband, because I think that's what we need. And so, I pushed myself to not get stuck in the fear of the anxiety of preparing to be away, and really move forward with like just go away for the weekend, enjoy your time, have a great time because you need it, and it would be nice to be away from the kids with just your partner. So I thank you for validating that for me. It kind of validates that decision that I just made, because my husband asked me this morning, he was like, so you're going or no? I was like, okay, I'm going. I'll do it. But this was such a really good conversation. And so, is there anything else you feel we should know, or anything else that's on your mind in terms of this idea of expressing your needs to your partner and it building more trust?
I guess the only other thing I would say is, like, it's not selfish to prioritize your marriage. And this is just one additional way to do that. And I just really hope this was encouraging for the wives and moms and wives to be out there. And if you have any questions whatsoever, definitely get in touch with us, connect with us. Instagram Forever Marriages, and Facebook Forever Marriages. And then we also have our newsletter where we provide those type of tips. So that's www.forever-marriages.com.
Awesome. So yes, mamas, connect with Marissa. If there's more questions or comments that you might have, thank you so much, Marissa. I appreciate you so much. This was a really great conversation, and I know the mamas are gonna love it.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Mama. Thank you for listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. If you love this podcast, please be sure to rate it and share it with another mama that you know. And don't forget to follow me and Balanced Working Mama on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon.